All right, here we go. We have one of the most rising stars out of the Peel region area right now, MDS. How are you doing today, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? How's everything going?
It's been alright, man. Happy New Year to you and all
Yeah,
that.
Happy New Year's, man.
Yeah. I think like the first time that we actually linked up was at the Binks interview and all that, So when I pulled up again at Studio 145 just last month, you were there with Binks and
Yeah.
spoke a lot and introduced ourselves before the interview, and it was like a dope experience, and had to check out the stuff.
Yeah, man, I was sick,
Music's
yeah.
Yeah, the music's been fire so far, just with a lot of like the similarities with like certain artists, and like with the mixtape that he had, which had like a good focus more on like love and relationships. It's been good so far and all that, and since you've been in the co-op for a while, like learning from them and like understanding, you know pressure makes diamonds and all that, so we had to make this happen, so
Of course, yeah, for sure.
yeah, man. Yeah. So welcome to TLOY for the very first time and all that,
I appreciate you having me, man.
And like you're the first person that we have for the year for the interview, so we had to start off right in that sense too, So yeah, man. So I wanna get it like started right away. So where did you grow up, and what was the environment like for you growing up? Would you say like you had a very decent childhood, or was it like a very different experience?
Well, I grew up in Mississauga. Like, I was born in Egypt. I came in 2011, but I spent the rest of my life here in Mississauga. My childhood was, I'm not gonna say it was awful, but it was different, because I had to deal with a lot of like things that happen in like school and stuff. And growing up, it's like I didn't have much friends, especially because I have ADHD and Tourettes. And growing up with that type of thing, it's like other people weren't really as understanding to that. And as a kid, it is what it is. But yeah, I guess like growing up, it was pretty tough with that part of my life. But other than that, like I was always a happy child. Yeah.
No, most definitely. I mean, with Egypt, it's like, one of the most iconic countries in the world. It was like it has like one of the like the great wonders with the Sphinx, with the pyramids, with everything else too, and like even growing up in like certain areas like Cairo and all that. Just seeing like that lifestyle, like it's very interesting to see and all that, and even moving to Mississauga too, like it seemed like very interesting as well too with the music scene and with everything like that. So with Cairo and like well, not with Cairo. Like I don't know if you are born in Cairo.
Yeah, I was born in Cairo.
Oh, true, true. So like even like with Cairo and even with Mississauga, like were they pretty like prevalent like with the music scenes like back then and like now as well?
Well, I was still, I was like 6 when I moved to Canada, so I don't know much about like back in Egypt, how it was with the music scene. I know Egypt is like very very big on music. Like there's a lot of rappers in Egypt that are like doing big things. Shout out to them. Like yeah, Egypt is actually one of the most like popular music and acting like Middle Eastern, North African, one of the most popular countries in that aspect of entertainment. So I guess Egypt is very much into that, but like I didn't really get to experience much of that as a kid. But here in Mississauga, like everybody listens to music. Everybody wants to be a rapper. Um, but that's not really why I got into it. Like why I became like an artist does not really have to do with me growing up in Mississauga. It has more to do with me myself.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man.
Yeah.
And even talking about that in that sense too. What was like your first introduction to music, and what were like some artists or sounds that you listened to throughout your life in that sense?
Well, I used to always listen to music like just on the bus going to school on my like earphones on the way back, and then at one point like music became a part of my life that was very important to me, and it became something that I used to cope with like all the things going on in my life, especially like mental health. And I feel like artists and the way like some specific artists to me and the way they made their music um, had really affected me in like a positive way, especially when I was going through a lot. And I just feel like that's uh, what really made me love music. And it just like after that, it became something that was regular, like me always listening to music. And, it just went up from there. Like it went from me listening to music to me just like listening, rapping along to other music, and then went to me writing music, and then all the way until I ended up in the studio and doing my own thing.
For sure, for sure. And, even with your family and with everyone else, did you have like a musical background in history back then? Like, did your family do like anything related to music in that sense too? Or if you had like friends that were doing music that got you inspired? And what inspired you to become like a rapper and artist?
Well, actually, funny enough, my dad used to be a drummer in like a band in Egypt. I don't know what it was called, but I understand it was a pretty big band back then. But I mean, that's kind of the only correlation to my family that has to do with music. My dad used to be into music, but I don't think he really took it seriously as in like a career. But he was into it for a while, and yeah, like nobody else in my family is really doing music. But yeah, like just music is kind of something that I came on upon myself. My dad used to teach me how to play the drums as a kid, but like nothing much other than that.
So, moving to like Mississauga and like just moving to Canada in that sense too, was it kind of like a culture shock for you in terms of like adapting into like Western culture and with everything else as well, just with the food, the languages, like everything else as well too, in that sense?
You're talking about moving from Egypt to Canada?
Yeah.
Well, actually, before I moved to Egypt, before I moved to Canada from Egypt, that's when I was first diagnosed with Tourette's. And from what I remember, as soon as I moved to Canada, it became like very severe. And I think it's because I was very overwhelmed. And, as any other child will be if you were just like taken from where you spent your entire childhood to like a whole new area where you didn't really know anybody and you weren't used to the country. Like I came in the middle of the winter in 2011 where it was like it was terrible, like snow and everything, and I've never seen that in my life. So I feel like it was a big change for me, as it will be for anybody. And it definitely took me a while to get used to it. But I'm a very like active person. I talk to people, and I've always been that way. Like I like talking to people and meeting new people. So I feel like I got used to it pretty quick, and it was good. It was a necessary part of my life.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree in that sense too. And even someone who's dealing with ADHD and Tourette's, like in school, like a lot of kids tend to bully others for like how to like dealing with those type of issues, or like having like a learning disability or having anything else like related to that, like a mental health issue. How did you like deal with like any bullying that like would have happened? Like, did you just like tend to like laugh it off, or?
Well, actually, I feel like that was a pretty big part of my life, but I just feel like there was no way for me to deal with it back then other than to listen to music, because I feel like that was, as I said, part of the reason. Part of the like it was something I used to cope with it. But I feel like now looking back, it's like I would not take back a second of it, because all those things that you're talking about, that are learning disabilities or something that made others look at you differently, are actually the things that make you the strongest. Because like realistically, if I didn't have all those things happen to me, or if I didn't have these things, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I might not even be making music. So I feel like every negative thing that happens in your life is a part of something bigger.
Yeah, for sure. And, even just getting back onto like the whole music aspect, when I was like listening to like a lot of the singles and like even with the love songs too, you remind me of Pop Smoke, like in that sense too, with the vocals and with everything else too. And I know that we spoke earlier that, you've never like listened to Pop Smoke in that sense too. But just wanted to add in, like, he wasn't like really like a main inspiration for your music, but like there was someone else who did.
Yeah.
And what made you decide to follow like that approach in your music back then?
Well, actually, I used to listen to Pop Smoke, but it wasn't something big like that I used to listen to. I just, I listen to a lot of genres, but I feel like when people say like, cause I have older music, and I kind of, there was a little bit of similarity with Pop Smoke, but it wasn't really like that. It was a different artist. Actually, it was one of my friends, Intro. Shout out Intro. He's the one who got me into music. Actually, he actually has that like deep voice and deep tone type of music too. So that's where people sometimes get mistaken. But I remember him. He hit me up a few years ago, um, he actually sent me one of his songs. He was like, check this out. I didn't even really know him back then, but I checked it out. I was like, yo, like this is sick, you know. And at that point, I realized like this is just some guy who like lives near me, you know, like he's just around here and he's doing this. And that's when it hit me that I can actually start taking it seriously. I'm like, yo, if he can do it, so can I. So you know, we started hitting up the studio and shit, and I just feel like from there I started making my music, and it was based off of his style. So it's like I was learning a lot from him, and then you know as I made more music, it's like I started going my own way, and that's why if you listen to my older music, it's like completely different from my new music. Due to me starting my own style and like you know I figured out my own sound, and it took years to do, but you know it's always important to make sure you know like what fits best for you. And for me, it's like you know I do more melodies and like melodic type of emotional music. And you know that's just me.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. And did you have like other artists or genres that you were mainly like influenced by? And who would you like to work with someday musically that you've never worked with before, or that you know you're in the process of working with?
Well, one of my biggest influences actually was X before he passed away. Um, his music was just very crucial to like it played a big role in my life, and not just his music, but him as a person, because the way I would see like him making a big difference in people's lives, like he wouldn't even just be doing music. He'd be like out on like Instagram live telling people like, yo, like all this positive shit. Like I hope you have a good day. And he'd be telling people like good messages like, yo, never give up on your dreams and all that. And I feel like he's just one of the most influential people to me because of that reason. And because he used music to help people out of a dark place rather than just making music, you know, just for the sake of it. And it was very interesting to me, and I loved it. You know.
Nah, for sure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
RPX, either way, you know, like I think him, Juice WRLD, Peep, like a lot of them have changed the way in like how
Mm-hmm.
like people like listen to music and how people like dive into their emotions to speak on like a lot of topics that you know no one's like afraid to like no one is like open to talk about in that sense too. And I do feel like yeah, it's very vital for people like that to be in the industry and all that.
Yeah, especially looking at X as his like his older music, like when you listen to his old music, it's like you could see he was just a kid, you know, like just saying shit on the mic, like look at me and um sipping tea in your hood, you know, all these tracks, they're hard, but it was like the more he got into the music industry, the more he started changing and using his music to do better. So it's like that's what I love about it, because you can see that you like anybody can be better, and you know like he went from that to this, and looking at both you can like it's very amazing to see.
For sure. And you know, getting back into your music right now, what's your creative process when you're making your music, and what's like a day like in the studio like for you in that sense?
Well, I'm actually in the studio every day. I took it as a co-op class, so you know I'm here every day on like on weekdays, you know, working. And you know I also book sometimes at the studio after, like in the evenings. And what I usually do is I just come in, set everything up, and I just get to cooking, man. Like I feel like most people have a more organized studio session where they take some time to write music, listen to beats, and record. But when I do my thing, it's like one where I'm just listening to a beat, and I just, you know, like just start rapping and shit. And then as soon as I just see like that one hit that just comes in my head, I just like, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do it right now, and I just get straight to it, you know? So it's one where it's not organized, but it's like, it's just whatever comes, and I hop on it right away. And I feel like that's one of the best moments when you're in the studio, you know?
Yeah. I mean, before we get into the music, the mixtape and like everything else too, you know, we're at Co-op 145. You know, we linked up at Co-op 145 for the Banks interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to like ask like, how did you get involved with the Co-op in that sense too, and like how you became like affiliated with it, and what was like the experience like you know working and like learning with them, and are there like any gems that you would like to share that they've taught you that you want to share to people out there?
Yeah, well, I actually started coming here in September, or yeah, end of September when school started as my co-op. And you know I've only been here for a few months, and I've been taught so much. So shout out 145, man. They've taught me so much more than I thought I could learn. And it wasn't just about music. Like they taught me a lot about life. Like how they always tell me that no matter what, you keep going and keep grinding, and at the end there's always gonna be something there. And like shout out Days, JD, Tiger, Dexter, everybody that comes here. Rocky. They all help me, and they all help each other. And that's what I love about 145 is that everybody's there and everybody is out there having everybody's back. And it's like I love to see it, and I love to see everybody working together, especially when everybody has something to offer. And it's like it's literally a co-op, and I love it. I love to see it.
Yeah, and I think it is very vital for like people in high school and people like within other grades to actually like tap in, or like people outside of school that tap in to like learn more about the industry, like learning more about how to make music, how to like engineer, like how to like lease your like beats and all that, and like so forth, and even working on your stems and all that, and with mixing. Like I do feel like it is very vital to understand that in order to be like successful in the music business too, because there's going to be situations where other people outside of that might not give you like the best advice. So like even having establishments like that, and even like with self-learning too, it's like very vital in that sense. So
Yeah.
most definitely. To talk more about your mixtape, so your mixtape is Love is Cold. So like with Love is Cold, it's like a free track mixtape, very dope. It has like a unique concept about like love, relationships, breakups, all that other type of stuff too. So what was that creative process and inspiration for that mixtape?
Well, one of the tracks on there is actually called "Hold Back." Um, it's a track that I wrote as a kid. Actually, I mean, I was like 14, 13 when I wrote this track, and I record. It was one of my first times in the studio when I recorded this track, and like it was a sick track. Like I used to write all the time, but that specific track, just the melody and the flow on it was crazy. So it's like all my friends used to tell me like that was the one track that they were fucking with. Like I used to listen to that track after recording it, and I was like, damn, this is crazy. And then a few years later, after I dropped it, like at like 13, or like back in 2018, 2019, I was like it had a lot of potential. But now as an artist that's been doing this for way longer, I could kind of redo that track, especially after those lyrics were hitting so much more now than they were before. Because before, when I was writing, I was just a kid, and then now as I grew up, it's like those lyrics that I wrote as a kid were now hitting me so much more. And I got to re-record that track. And now if you listen to the second version versus first one, I left the first one up because it's like I want people to be able to go to that old track and go to the new one and hear the difference in my voice. Like it was before, it was just me as a kid, and now it's like you can hear the emotion and the emotional level on that track, and that's what I love about that track. But the other two tracks on the EP were actually just like three completely different, not genres, but like completely different sounds. So I dropped that EP as a way for people to like understand that I'm not making music as to one specific sound. It's like completely different. Like Picasso, I was going off, on like a drill beat, and I had a much deeper tone in it. And Hold Back was more like just rapping with a melody. And then if you listen to the third track, it was more just me rapping. It was like kind of slow melodies. So I dropped that EP to show people that you don't have to do everything in one style. You could do it in multiple styles and still make it sound good.
Yeah, no, for sure. And getting on to your stage name for a bit too, like we discussed this like kind of earlier. So I don't think there's like an actual like meaning for like the MDS name. It's just more so like your initials in that sense.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it just sound catchy. When I first started making music and I was gonna release my first track, I literally sat there and overthanked my stage name for so long, and I just couldn't think of anything. And then it just hit me like MDS, Muhammad Salam, which is my name, right? So I was like, yo, it sounds catchy, and I just went on with it. It wasn't really, there's no really like there's not really a message behind it other than like, I don't have a problem with my name being out there. I love my name, especially because it's like it means a lot in my religion, and I feel like it represents a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And just getting onto like the whole like music scene stuff too here, and like in Peel and other parts too. How do you feel about the music scene in like Toronto and in Peel, like at the moment right now? Do you feel like there should be some changes on the direction of where the scene should go to, or do you feel like it's fine the way it is?
Well, I listen to a lot of Toronto music, and I feel like there are so many different types of Toronto music. Like you could be listening to music like Smoke Dog. You could be listening to music like Northside Benji, Houdini, Burna Bands, and you could like see completely different sounds in that. Especially with like Houdini and Burna doing more like, and Northside Benji too doing more like melodies. I feel like Houdini and Burna used to do some like sick music before Houdini passed away. They used to do like sick melodies in their music, and I feel like that's part of the reason why they went so big. Because if you listen to like older Toronto music, there wasn't really any melody in it, for the most part, and it's more like just lyrical. So I feel like they kind of implanted that melody into the scene. And Northside Benji, one of his freestyle, it was Fire in the Booth. His Fire in the Booth freestyle. It was like honestly one of the hardest tracks from Toronto that I've ever heard in my life, especially because of like the lyrics in it, correlating with the melodies was crazy. And there's a lot of other artists in Toronto that are making a great name for themselves. But I feel like in Toronto, one thing the artists should do is start working with each other instead of working against each other. And I feel like that's one of the big things, because I feel like if we all work together, we could do some great things. Especially because like I see a lot of people always hating on like rappers and people who are just trying to work hard. And I feel like if everybody was just to start working together and using their minds together and collaborating, we would see some great things happen.
No, for sure. No, I definitely agree as well too. I think it's like a worthwhile process to get into it because there's like a lot of like systemic issues and like everything else going on like regarding the industry and everything like that. But I do feel like with certain changes like that to remove that whole click aspect, like it can become more better. And it was like especially like that with like Rolling Loud and with other parts too, where people are performing together, doing their own things. There wasn't like any issues going on as much. So hopefully it'll be better like that for 2023. And
Yeah.
crazy thing is that today Dr. Bushman actually dropped one of his projects too. So another recommendation as well too. Like if you're into like that whole like Peel sound, like that's the guy for you as well. So
Yeah, he's a sick artist.
for sure. So I'm incorporating this like for like the entire year. To add more onto the interview aspect. So for an artist like yourself too. Name 3 songs in your catalog that you would recommend for any person that has not heard about you before or that would like to know more about you in that sense.
Well, my favorite track by me actually is probably Heartache, because that track was more like focused on being able to make good music without having any negative impact. So if you go and listen to that track, I don't have anything like bad that I said in that track. I'm not talking about like drugs or bitches and shit. I'm just talking about like real life shit, like emotions, and I love that track for that reason, especially the flow on that. I feel like it was one of my more creative tracks. And my second favorite track by me is probably Hold Back, because of the meaning behind it and the history behind it. And everyone go check out my newest track, War. It was a really hard track, and I actually didn't even think it would get as much attention as it would. I dropped that track just for the sake of dropping, because I haven't dropped in a few months because I've just been working. Like I've been focused more on making a bunch of music and then start releasing. But I realized I haven't released in a while, and I dropped that track as just a track that I had that was okay, and I got a lot of love on that track, and I feel like now after I got that love and I'm thinking about it, it's like it's a sick track still. So everybody, go check out War, on all platforms, everything. give it a listen. Let me know what you think.
For sure. And what's next for you for this year in terms of like any releases or anything going on? And do you have any like final words you'd like to say for any person out there or like any creative like pursuing their dreams?
Well, I'm actually working on an album. I've been working on it for a few months now. I'm gonna try to have some big artists on it. I'm gonna have 2 tracks on it with LB Spiffy. I think one of them might be as a single that I'm gonna drop before the album, but one of them's for sure gonna be on the album. And I'm trying to get in. I mean, I got in contact and spoke to a producer. It goes by Great John. He produced a few tracks for like Sleepy Hollow and Chef G and another big a lot of big artists. And maybe I'm gonna have some of my tracks by him, like produced by him, on the album too. And I'm looking to really expand my networking so I can have a lot of different genres and different type of artists on my album, so I can have different audience as well. And this album is actually it's not just me. It's gonna be me and my boy Intro. He's another artist in Saga, so shout out to Intro. He's the one that I was speaking about before. He got me into music, so I feel like both of us working together and making it big one day together is gonna be kind of I'm kind of sick to see.
All right, that's for sure. So MDS, thank you for coming by to TLOY to spark off the first interview, like for the platform for the year and all that. I wish nothing but the best for you, like in terms of your music career and with everything going on for you at Coop 145 and with everything else too, with the LB features and much more. So
it was my honor, bro. I appreciate you having me out here, man. Shout out 145. Shout out everybody.
All right, man. Until next time.
Yeah, until next time, man. See you.